This time I would like to ask Gail Moore with Customs Plastics and More to come forward and lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Okay, the hard part. Stop chewing, stand up. We're going to say grace and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, our Creator and Sustainer, we come before you today as a community united to ask your blessing on this food and our time together. Please cover the work of our hands. Help us to be humble in all that we do. We ask that you be mindful of the safety and efforts of our elected officials, educators, and public servants. By your grace, we give you all the glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will our elected officials please stand and introduce themselves?
Kelly Robinson, Board of Commissioners. Tom Worthing, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners.
Carol Lindstrom, Vice Chair, Board of Education.
Rochelle Robinson, Mayor of the City of Douglasville. Mike Miller, City of Douglasville.
Thank you. Will our chairman board members please stand and introduce themselves? Excuse me. Yeah, chairman board members. Chamber board members, excuse me. My mistake. And I was wondering why you guys were looking around.
Tim Scott, Douglas County Board of Education.
Kara Pearson, Grayson House.
Law School City Officer, Law School District. Phil Strauss, Water and Sewer Authority. Chris Pumphrey, Douglas County Economic Development Authority. John Settle, Georgia Power, and I am a chamber chairman.
Thank you, John.
Paul Hawkinson, Legislative Associates. Jimmy Mitchell, Tuckett EMS.
Thank you. Now, we're very proud for our 2016 Chairman's Club. Members that have joined us today, I am very sure many of you noted them on the slides prior to the luncheon. But I do want to say thank you and recognize the group sitting in the front. And finally, our chairman diplomats, will you please stand and be recognized? Our chamber diplomats, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker, Suzie Price. She's an engaging and insightful presenter who draws on her more than 25 years of experience with the likes of NCR, State Farm, and the Oracle, and to get to the heart of the matter whenever she speaks. A professional facilitator, as well as a consultant and author, she has a way of connecting with audience that lets them know that they're not only in the presence of an expert, but one who cares about their success. Someone committed to giving them the tools and resources they need to break through the next level of performers. Please join me and welcome Suzie Price.
Yes, you did. You got it. All right.
Who here has, who here has worked for or with someone who seemed difficult? few hands up. They were, I'm going to give you some more descriptions to even wind it up some more. They were too big picture or too into all the details. They were way too talkative, couldn't get a word in, or they were so quiet it was like you didn't know what they were thinking. They were slow in making decisions, or they were too darn impulsive. And you were frustrated in working with them. Let's see those hands again. And when these people did these things that you didn't like, you didn't appreciate, and you certainly didn't understand, what do you think? Did you think they were doing it on purpose just to annoy you and make your life harder? Is that possible? Maybe. Seemed like it. Sure it did. I've been there. Because when people do things different than the way we do them, well, let's be honest, our way is the best way, right? Tend to think that sometimes. I've been guilty of it as well. But do you think, if you think back, do you think those people had conscious negative intent? Or, I'll throw out a possibility, and you can consider it. Do you think they were just marching to the beat of a different drummer? Possible? Now, I'll give it to you because I know this as well as you do, that some people are out to make other people's lives miserable, right? But most aren't. And if you've been able to begin creating communication transformation in your personal life and your professional life, there's one key insight that makes a big difference. And that is remembering that people aren't always difficult. They're just different. So I want to start with a story. It was 1995. I was 29 years old, and I had just landed what I thought was going to be the perfect job. Nice pay increase, interesting travel. I was so excited, but there was one problem, and it was my boss, Beverly. She was plain difficult. So when I landed the position, I was excited because I was going to be working for Beverly. She was in this company one of the first employees. And by that time, when I was about to join them, they were at about 20,000 employees. So I knew she was a bit of a legend in the industry, and I knew I was going to learn a lot from her. And so I was super excited about the opportunity. The night before my first day on the job, I didn't sleep a wink. You know how when you're all excited, first day at school, all right. 1 month into the position, I wasn't so excited. 6 months in, I was wondering if I was going to be able to keep my job. And the problem, the way I saw it, was Beverly. It was the communication. There was none. Door was closed, no open door policy. When we actually had meetings, I could tell that she was impatient with me. And as I would try to get her to make decisions and talk about ideas, all she wanted to do was point out my mistakes, and she would ask for more analysis, more information. We weren't getting anywhere. My boss, previous to this position, his name was Tony. Totally different situation. I was missing him by this point because I could walk into his office, we could communicate, we had a dialogue, we debated ideas, we shared. I knew a little bit about his life, he knew a little bit about my life, and I was really missing that. And I was beginning to think, this is not such a great opportunity after all. Just not so great. And then by some miracle, at that point in my life, I didn't think of it as a miracle at the time, but a consultant came into our team and asked us to try out an assessment. We were going to be the pilot group for the company. So they were going to test it on us, see how it went, and then decide if they were going to roll it out. And so I was to complete an assessment online. It was a talent insights assessment. Took me about 20 minutes to complete it. And what I received was 45 pages of information on Suzie Price. And it was fascinating to me. I could see my communication strengths. I could see how I'm motivated. I could see what my blind spots were. But I had an even bigger insight than just learning about myself. The light bulb moment for me was when I learned about Beverly. And that's when I realized she wasn't difficult. She was just different. We were different, completely different. My style was a bit like Ellen DeGeneres with a little Judge Judy thrown in. Her style, closer to Spock from Star Trek. Very different. It was no wonder we were having trouble communicating. My tendency, without awareness, is I talk fast, move fast, and make quick decisions. Beverly talks deliberately and makes very deliberate decisions. I like to talk out loud. I talk to think, and I want to express, and I use my hands a lot. Beverly, she thinks before she talks, and really is not expressive. You don't know what she's thinking. It's a neutral face. I'm thinking about all the time. Urgency, hurry up, we gotta go, let's take a risk. The objective is get it done. Beverly, she's thinking, mitigate the risk. There is no hurry, we just have to get it right. It needs to be accurate. I am kind of direct. So I tend to, without even knowing I'm doing it, sometimes if I'm not aware, I will get in your space and give you a high five and pat you on the back. Beverly's style was much more indirect. Don't get in my space, and please don't pat me on the back. I like ideas, emotion, feeling. Beverly, you know what she wanted? Facts, figures, and precision. So, no wonder, such a light bulb moment. She wasn't difficult, we were just totally different. So, I took the tips the consultant shared with us, and I tried them out. So for our next meeting, I created an agenda, and I didn't just slap it together, I thought about it, and made sure it was very logical, and I gave it to her a couple of days before our first meeting, or our next meeting. The morning of the meeting, I had no additional coffee, so that I didn't show up more hyper and wired. You know, I needed to dial it down a little bit, right? I walked into the meeting, took a deep breath, and focused on being calm and a little bit quiet. What I used to do, especially if it was a Monday morning, I'd throw the door open. Hey, Beverly, what's up? How was your weekend? Totally different. Calm, quiet. During the meeting, I focused on the agenda. I didn't skip around, and I had all the details handy to share. And I didn't allow something that I like to do and can do often, which is, oh, look at the squirrel. I didn't do any of that. Agenda. Stay on the agenda, Suzie. I focused on being precise and sharing facts and figures and not talking so much. And guess what? What do you think? We had a great meeting. We had a great meeting. And what happened, or what I noticed right off the bat, because I am intuitive and I do sense what's going on, is she felt more comfortable. She felt more comfortable. We got a lot accomplished. She made some decisions. And at the very end of the meeting, she told me a little personal tidbit about her weekend that I had never heard before, and gave me an itty-bitty, tiny, itty-bitty little compliment. Success. Success. And what it took to make that communication transformation was for me to understand that she wasn't wrong because she was different from me. And I started switching my thoughts to, hey, maybe we could work together. And I moved towards her first. And what happened was she started moving back towards me, and our relationship got better and better. It was as though, and it is true, not even as though, the reality was my strengths helped cover her blind spots, and her strengths helped cover my blind spots. So when I'm all urgent and ready to take risks, she would help slow me down a little bit and say, okay, wait a minute, do we need to take a risk? And when she was maybe in her blind spot, which can be analysis paralysis, I could help her pick up the pace a little bit and say, okay, let's make a decision. But it only started from the very beginning piece, which was my light bulb moment, when I decided she wasn't difficult, we were just different. Prior to that understanding, we were stuck like this, standstill. I'm doing me, she's doing her, and we're not getting anywhere fast. So as the adapting started occurring, there was much more flow. She'd come my way, I'd come her way. We had less tension. It was certainly more enjoyable. And we were so much more effective. And I didn't lose my job. Yay! It's great. Since that time, I have become somewhat of an expert in those tools and more, and certified in them, and I've helped thousands of leaders and organizations build the energy, commitment, and communication on their teams using tools like that I learned way back then. And I'm here today because I want to give you a little insight into one of those tools, so that if you're working with someone right now who may seem really difficult, who maybe only just be different, you might could create your own communication transformation. So you have a handout there, and I want to mention to you what's in there, or on it. At the top of the main page there where you see the Douglas County Chamber logo, you see there are 5 steps. And these are the steps that I took to create that change. And they're things you could consider. And they spell out the word solve. The first step is see with new eyes. None of the other things work if we can't move through this step. French writer Proust said, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." So, what that means is we have to get rid of the story. So any of the water cooler talk, any of the conversations that you've been having at home, you have to kind of let that go, release your judgment, and try to spend your time understanding the other person and seeing where the differences are. So we want to see with new eyes. If you're able to let go of the story and some of the judgment that may be well earned, but willing to do that, then the next step would be to observe their style or their behaviors. And we use the DISC language. Many of you might have already heard of it. And it's called DISC because there are 4 styles. We're usually a mix of styles. And you'll see right below the 5 solve steps some descriptors of the styles. There's high dominance, that's Judge Judy. High influence, that's Ellen DeGeneres, gives us an example of that. High steadiness, Andy Griffith. And then high compliance, Spock from Star Trek. And what's interesting, if you look at the descriptors and you look at, say, the D versus the S, so whoever's across, you'll see they're totally different. So, for example, with the descriptors, high D, fast pace, high steadiness, Andy Griffith, cautious pace, high D, animated, high steadiness, neutral. A lot of differences, talk to think to talk, a little like the differences that Beverly and I had. And so you don't have to have an assessment to start watching someone if you're willing to see them with new eyes and guess what's their behavioral style. And we're usually a mix, but usually we can kind of hang out in one style enough for you to guess what their style is. Okay, so if they're across from someone, you'll notice there can be an opportunity for lots of tension, like Beverly and I were having, and a great amount of synergy and effectiveness, better than if you were the same. There's power in that diversity and embracing it. So the steps are: see with new eyes. Observe someone's behavior. Think about how they behave. See where they might land in their style, what their tendencies are. And then we flip it over and we do the third step, which is learn the communication tips. So I have communication tips for you for each style. And if we were to look at them, you can read them and you'll see, like, let's look at the high C. That was Beverly, a little bit of Spock tendency. They want others to socialize less, to focus on details, logic, and accuracy. And if you read the be sure to, you'll notice that I did a lot of the things that are recommended there when I told my story. So let's go around and there's a lot on all of these, but let's say together, just to have something verbal to say together and to kind of hone these in a little bit. If you're communicating with a high C who wants logic and might have a little bit of Spock, let's say together that red key down there. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Use logic. Give them time and all of the details. So try that adapting. Move towards them a little bit. How about the high D? The high D, that was a little bit of Judge Judy style. Wants control, challenge, wants to make decisions and solve problems. Let's read the key together. What are we going to do if we know we're going into a meeting with a high D? We're going to be prepared, be brief, and what? Be gone. So get to the bottom line. Got it? High I's want everybody to be friendly and to socialize and recognition. So when we're meeting with a high I, we're going to build time in that agenda. What are we going to do if we're going to move towards them? We're going to, what's the red key say? Let them talk themselves to clarity. Talk to think. I have to journal just to help myself not talk so much, right? So I talk to think. So high steadiness. That is the Andy Griffith style, more reserved, amiable. They want everybody to get along, to be cooperative, and they want to be appreciated and to appreciate. So what are we going to do if we're meeting with Andy Griffith? How are we going to move towards him? We're going to start personal, provide assurances, and check in often. All right, that's good. So we've gone through 4 of the 5 steps. See with new eyes. Gotta let go of the judgment. Try to understand who they are and what they need, right? We're going to observe their behaviors. We're going to use this as our little cheat sheet. Then we're going to learn the communication tips. And now this is actually the 4th step. We're going to vow to use them. Got to use them, right? How many times, and I've done it too, been to a talk or something interesting, and we think, oh, that's interesting, and it goes in a drawer and we never try it. I would love for you to vow to yourself, I'm going to use these tips. Life experience teaches, words don't. It's amazing we use so many, right? Life experience teaches, and that means, oh, I have to try this stuff. If I have success with it, I'm going to use it other places as well. So we want you to think about that, vow to use them. And then the last step in the 5 solve steps is evolve your view. So if you've had low trust and high judgment with a person that you work with, then it won't evolve right away. You're not going to have automatic, I just used this and now we have communication transformation. It's going to take some time and it will take a commitment by you. Because you're the one who knows this information, you can kind of take ownership of it, and you can say, okay, I'm going to start trying to understand the world through their eyes. And then just see what happens. See, let that evolve. It won't happen overnight. So, 5 steps. Spell out the word solve. If you can use the 5 steps, you can move from, it's not possible, this to this. Stand still. Flow. We work together even though we're different. There's strength in diversity. So what we've gone through in a very quick time are 5 communication steps for communication transformation. We've looked at the DISC and reminded you of that tool and some tips that hopefully you can use. And I wanted to mention one other handout on your table. It is an opportunity, you can give me some feedback. If you want a complimentary call, you can check that and we will have a discussion. And there'll be no obligation, but it's a phone call, and we can discuss what you're working on within your organization. If you would like to sign up for my newsletter, if you sign up for my newsletter, I'll send you a 24-page PDF that has some interesting tips for going into a meeting with a different style. So I'll send that to you, and you can easily unsubscribe if it's not your thing. It's once a month. And any feedback that you want to provide, I'm open to that as well. So I want to close with a disc style walks into the Douglas County luncheon meeting. So Callie Boatwright, your president and CEO, she has asked for some feedback, and she wants any emails from folks to share about their thoughts. This is figurative. She didn't really ask this, to let you know, so she didn't get a million emails, so I'm sure she would be happy to receive them. But she's asked for feedback. She's like, oh, thanks. She's asked for feedback about the luncheon meetings. And each style is going to respond via email, and I'm going to read you their responses. And what I want you to do is, if you think you might have some of that style in you, think for a minute, because I'm going to do their style unmanaged. We aren't victims of our style. We can manage it. We can do conversational adapting. We can do meeting adapting. We can adapt, but only with awareness, right? So I want you, if you're hearing the high D and you think you might have high D, think about how could I manage my style so I could send Callie a more effective note, okay? Because they're just doing their style unhinged, okay? And if you're working with someone who has that style, or they're your person who's a little bit difficult, think about how could I help them? What are their blind spots? And what are their strengths out of those blind spots? Okay, so here we go. High dominance. High dominance, as a reminder, is the Judge Judy. They want control, they want to make decisions and to solve problems. They're going to be fast-paced, urgent, assertive, and get to the bottom line quickly. If they overuse their strengths, they can be impatient and can come across as inconsiderate. And I'll tell you some of the punctuation so you can get how the email looks, okay? Hey, explanation point. I came to a chamber luncheon last month. My name tag was not ready, and I'd asked that a front row seat be reserved for me since I am one of the chamber's biggest supporters. I was seated at an inferior table, although I saw better tables available. Unacceptable, explanation point. The announcements need to be shared more quickly. The servers weren't moving fast enough, and I was served last. They need to just get on with it with both the announcements and the food service. At the next luncheon, I'd like more speed, less chit-chat, and better placement. Yours for better results, Donald Dominance. Okay, high influence. So Ellen DeGeneres displays a lot of the high I style. So high I wants people to be friendly, emotionally available, and they like recognition. They're extroverts, people-oriented, and they have lots of ideas. They express optimism and fear social rejection. If they overuse their strengths, they may talk too much, they cannot listen, and they may come across as disorganized. Hi there, explanation point. I was at last week's chamber luncheon, and I was looking for a little less meeting and food and more fun and networking, explanation point. I'd been confined to my office doing spreadsheets that morning and had not gotten to talk to anybody. I'd barely had time to update my Facebook status this morning, explanation point. When the convention server came over, I expected normal behavior. When I asked him how he was doing and how his day had been, he didn't even respond. And I had no idea what entree I wanted, and he rushed me in deciding whether I wanted chicken or veal. And I'd only been seated for 10 minutes. I just was busy talking, and I hadn't been able to decide. I thought he was a little rude. I don't want you to think I'm complaining. I just thought if I let you know about my experience, you might be able to talk to the convention center about the servers, and you could begin making luncheons more fun, with more time to interact and mingle. In fact, if you want, I can stop by sometime, and maybe we can do lunch. Explanation point. And we can talk about some other ideas I have for our meetings. Let me know, explanation point. Of course, you know I'll be back, because I'm sure you'll take care of that grumpy server problem. Yours for fun dining, I'm a party. All right, 2 more to go. We're right on time. Steadiness. So high steadiness. That's the Andy Griffith image, okay? So amiable. They like an environment with little change. They want people to be relaxed and cooperative and appreciative. They're low-key, pleasant, patient, and they like their routine. If they overuse their strengths, they may hold back their true feelings or insights and can tend to put up with things like conflict or things they don't like. Hello. I have been coming to chamber luncheons for the last 10 years, the third Tuesday of every month at exactly 11:45 a.m. I usually order the chicken piccata, and imagine my shock when you replace the chicken piccata with veal piccata about 3 months ago. I didn't want to say anything. I have been eating the veal, though I don't really like it. The salad is still okay. However, I have been diagnosed with a rare bone disease, and I cannot eat veal anymore. I don't want to complain or tell you how to run the food for the chamber luncheons, and there's probably nothing you can do, but is there any way you could put chicken back on the menu? Modestly yours, Stan Bayou. Okay, a person high C. So we've got Spock and Beverly. High compliance. They follow the rules and procedures. They tend to be neat, conservative, precise. They want less socializing and more logic and details. If they overuse their strengths, they can come across as aloof and critical of others. Dear Madam President, my fellow actuarials and I have attended chamber luncheons on 5 occasions in the last 12 months. I have noticed that the amount of time it takes for members to get seated and to get the meeting started has gotten longer. The optimal time frame for a seating 150 people should be 10 minutes, but in the last 4 meetings, seating time has taken 12 minutes and 30 seconds to 15 minutes and 15 seconds. If you had a more efficient seating process with seating charts mailed in advance, you could speed up the seating process and have a more orderly meeting. Also, I noticed the agenda had 2 typos. Line 7, the speaker's name was misspelled, and on line 15, you left the E off the word luncheon. The speaker also had a typo on slide number 25. I reviewed the fire marshal capacity for the entry foyer. The rule is no more than 100 people in that area, and at one point, I counted 115 people there. You are in violation of a rule, and you should correct that error promptly. With respect, Accurate Abe. They may seem difficult, but they're really just different. Embrace the difference and create your own communication transformation. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Suzie, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. As a thank you for speaking, and contribution will be made in your name to a Chamber Board Scholarship, which funds a scholarship for a graduating senior each year. Again, thanks to the Douglas County citizens for excellence in education for sponsoring today's luncheon, and to Greystone Power for their naming sponsorship. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.